Tonight, residents who live near Billy Bishop Airport are calling for answers after they were left in the dark during a recent bomb scare.
For 8 hours, we didn't know what was happening.
A suspicious package prompted the airport and surrounding area to be closed off for hours. Residents holding a meeting tonight to discuss how similar situations can be better managed in the future. Plus,
people need help filling out forms, and they need help navigating the process.
a new license will soon allow paralegals in the province to help those who can't afford a lawyer navigate the family court system. Plus,
today's a loss, but in the grand scheme of things, this feels like a really historic moment for Canada.
Team Canada's run at the World Cup comes to an end with a loss against Morocco, but fans still beaming at their historic showing as they look ahead to 2026. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. A group of concerned residents are calling for answers tonight after they were left in the dark during a recent bomb scare at Billy Bishop Airport. Now, police were called to the island about a potential explosive device back in October, with nearby buildings evacuated for hours while officers investigated. As Tyler Cheese reports, residents want better planning for similar emergencies in the future.
People living near the island airport want to know why they were left standing on the street for 8 hours on October 22nd.
People didn't have medications. No one knew how long this was going to happen. As someone with kids, young kids, you know, like, do I need to get a hotel? Is it going to be another hour? There was no kind of timeline and communication from police to the people who lived here.
Police were called in to investigate a suspicious device found near the mainland ferry terminal around 4 p.m. Flights were canceled and residents of nearby buildings were evacuated until midnight. The device was later revealed to be 2 batteries attached to an electric bicycle.
People were just very angry. We hope to get more communication. We hope to get a plan that we can have and share with the buildings, maybe have members in each building with an alternative to guide, you know, what's supposed to happen next or in these kind of situations.
A day after the incident, police said initial tests by the emergency disposal unit led officers to believe the device may have been an explosive. They later conducted a controlled detonation of the device at the airport. But residents are here tonight to ask police why it took so long.
And hopefully maybe start to work towards what's the next steps towards a solution so this doesn't happen again.
They say a lack of communication from police led to confusion and frustration. Police say they were unable to predict how long the investigation would take, but apologized to residents for how long it took.
In hindsight, if we knew this was going for 8 hours at the beginning of it, we could have made a phone call. But the problem is we don't know. We don't have a crystal ball as this situation develops.
But not everyone is satisfied with the official responses.
I'm very unhappy, as most people in this meeting are, very unhappy with the police response. And they got to come up with something a little better than we can't share all the details of our investigation.
Tonight's meeting leaving many asking the same question they arrived with. How will they be protected in similar situations in the future? Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
2 Scarborough schools were placed in lockdown after a gun call this afternoon.
We are currently doing a systematic search of the school, looking for any persons of interest or property related to this incident. I can tell you that we have located 1 replica firearm inside the school that we believe is connected to this, and we have 2 people that we have detained at the moment.
The police says officers were called to David and Mary Thompson Collegiate at 1 p.m. The school was placed into lockdown and the public was advised to avoid the area. A neighboring school was also put in lockdown and 4 others were placed in hold and secure. Police say this remains an active investigation and they are looking for 2 more people in connection with the incident. Premier Doug Ford saying today he supports healthcare workers, but he is still planning to appeal a court decision that ruled his government's bill that limited wages for some of them is unconstitutional. Now, it's the first time we're hearing from the Premier since an Ontario court struck down the legislation this week. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redicop has more.
I think the world of our frontline healthcare workers.
Premier Doug Ford responded to a question on continuing the legal fight against the Bill 124 ruling. It followed a photo op announcing more funding to pay nurses to upskill to work in critical care.
I just want to thank them. Yes, we're going to appeal. My hands are tied on what I can say. It's in front of the courts right now. We just look forward to the Court of Appeal because there's precedent. throughout the country that they ruled another way. So I'm just trying to rationalize why the ruling came down the way it was.
In one case, Manitoba's appeal court ruled in favor of the government there and its controversial wage freeze bill.
This case is very important to the government's position. I think the government does face an uphill burden, not to say that it's an impossible burden, particularly given the precedents that have been set in other jurisdictions.
Bill 124 limits wage increases for public sector workers, including nurses, at 1% a year. And when the judge overturned it,
my phone just exploded with nurses doing the happy dance.
The NDP's health critic is frustrated with the government's plans to appeal.
I thought Bill 124 was in the garbage, and I wanted to stay there.
The opposition criticized this comment yesterday by the health minister.
In fact, we have not seen a mass exodus of nurses leaving the system.
The government cites a figure showing overall numbers of RNs are up. The NDP says that's not the whole story, that many still have their license but are no longer working in hospitals. The head of Canada's largest hospital network says here's what they normally see.
We'd have about 200 vacancies churning. At the peak, we had up to 600 vacancies, and at the moment, we're working around 400 vacancies. And so we have not seen a mass, quote-unquote, exodus.
That's not something to be proud of. And if that's the number of vacancies that they have as one of the best resource hospitals in the country, imagine what it's like for community hospitals, for rural and remote hospitals.
As for Bill 124, the Premier says if the courts rule against his government, he will not use the notwithstanding clause to keep it in place. Lorinda Radicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, hiring a lawyer can be expensive, so much so it's forcing some people in Ontario to represent themselves in family law cases. But they will soon be able to find support without burning a hole in their wallet, thanks to a new license that will allow paralegals to help clients navigate court. Ellie Chiasson has more.
Right now, our court system is not user-friendly and is not overly accessible to the general public, who are the very taxpayers who fund the system. So that's a problem.
Leona Harvey could no longer afford a lawyer in her divorce in 2015, so she decided to represent herself. She falls into a category of litigants who make too much money to qualify for legal aid, and yet was still financially drowning in lawyers' fees.
There was a lot of trial and error, a lot of mistakes. A lot of costly mistakes.
Harvey is one of a growing number of people representing themselves in family law. In the 2019-2020 year, 58% of litigants were self-represented across the country, and experts say that number is closer to 80% in urban centres like Toronto. But more affordable help is on the way. Today, the Law Society of Ontario created a license that allows paralegals to be more hands-on in family law.
We can fill out forms, we can assist a family law litigant with putting their plan together so that they know what they need to do in order to go into court. We can give legal advice.
Paralegal Michelle Lamazzo says the scope is still pretty limited, like when it comes to divvying up assets.
If you own a home, if you own any property, I can't do that for you.
But it's a start.
It's so hard for the judges because when people aren't represented, the judges have to take a lot of time explaining the process.
The Association of Family Lawyers doesn't love the idea of paralegals now being allowed to do some of their work. They argue the 3-month mandatory training program isn't going to be enough to achieve the type of legal expertise one needs to represent a family in court. They also say that some family lawyers offer rates that are comparable to paralegals. Well, to all of that, Law Society member Michelle Lamazzo says,
it shouldn't be about what paralegals or lawyers want. It's about access to justice for the people of Ontario.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Let's go to Colette Kennedy now with a first check on your forecast. And Colette, a cold one out there. Winds have calmed down a bit, but still quite gusty.
Well, quite a chilly day. Again, still contending with those winds, right? Out of the west, easing through the evening hours and tonight. And so, yes, we'll have a wind chill, but we're going to see a real directional change, and that's going to have a big impact on the temperatures. But highs today, not much here, really. In some cases, not even climbing above the freezing mark. So that's going to make the milder air on Friday feel that much better. Partly cloudy conditions through the overnight period, but unfortunately, we'll see a lot more cloud cover rolling in through the day tomorrow. So mostly cloudy skies. The sunny breaks that we do get are times when it's more of a mix. Just consider those our best moments of the day because it will be a little harder to come by. Then tomorrow into the evening, a few spotty showers are possible, but the main rain story is going to move in overnight Friday into Saturday. I'm going to have more on that coming up. I'll give you the timeline and more mild temperatures to go with that. But tonight, -2 feels like -6. There it is tomorrow, up to 7 degrees for the high.
Great. Thanks so much, Colette. Police have now charged the driver of a pickup truck that struck and killed a young student from India.
He was the youngest one, so that's why it's a very painful and heartbreaking for us. The youngest one has left us so early.
The family of Kartik Saini speaking about the death of the 20-year-old Sheridan College student. Last night, about 200 people took part in a memorial ride for Saini. He was biking in the Yonge and St. Clair area last week when he was struck and dragged by a vehicle that had just made a right turn from St. Clair onto Yonge. The 60-year-old driver of the pickup truck now faces charges including careless driving causing death. A day after a scathing report about the rollout of Ottawa's light rail transit system, the head of the province's transportation agency is vowing not to repeat the same mistakes on local transit projects. Ryan Patrick Jones reports.
What are you doing to make sure that we learn lessons from that report that might be relevant for us?
That was the question from a Metrolinx board member put to CEO Phil Verster at today's meeting. The Public Inquiry's report found egregious errors during the construction and testing of Ottawa's LRT. The commissioner says it was rushed to service too early, which led to malfunctioning equipment, flattened and cracked wheels, and a pair of derailments. The report also found the city's oversight was limited.
So as an organization, we have kept a consistent review of the events that has happened on the Ottawa LRT.
ACS Group, SNC Lavalin, and Ellis Dawn were part of the consortium that built Ottawa's Confederation Line. Now they're building the Eglinton Crosstown LRT. The same vehicles that constantly broke down in Ottawa are also being used on Eglinton. Verster says he's been briefed on the inquiry's report and will learn lessons.
Particularly around issues on the vehicles itself, and to make sure that those same vehicles that are going to operate on our LRTs are safe and reliable for operation.
This transit advocate says Toronto Transit riders should be concerned.
Some of the same private companies who are part of the Rideau Transit Group have a 30-year maintenance contract on the Eglinton Crosstown LRT, and the same public-private partnership model is being used, and we're seeing that lack of transparency and oversight right now. We don't know when the Eglinton Crosstown will open. We haven't had answers from Metrolinx about what are the holdups.
Metrolinx also received updates on the construction of several rapid transit projects at today's meeting. 2 contracts have been signed for tunneling, stations, operations, and maintenance for the Ontario Line subway. And Metrolinx says it's laying the concrete bed for tracks and building stations on the Finch West LRT, which is scheduled to open in 2023. But there's still no word on when the delayed Eglinton Crosstown LRT will open, after it was delayed again this year. Ryan Patrick Jones, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. Well, Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, was one of the biggest rappers of the last 2 decades. Well, now he may be one of the biggest anti-Semites of today. On a live stream, the Grammy-winning rapper publicly praising the Nazis and denying the Holocaust. Katie Simpson reports.
But this guy,
conspiracy theorist Alex Jones invited Kanye West onto his program. He's the one with the covered face. And the conversation was as offensive and harmful as you might expect.
You're not a Nazi. You don't deserve to be called that and demonized.
I see good things about Hitler also.
West has been saying and posting things like that for months.
I want this country to
Recently, he brought a well-known white supremacist and Holocaust denier to dinner with Donald Trump, which the Republican candidate for president has refused to clearly denounce.
It boggles the mind. I just can't. It is almost hard to understand that this is happening in 2022.
Advocates are sounding the alarm that anti-Semitism in the U.S. is becoming mainstream. The Anti-Defamation League has found acts of hate have been rising steadily. Last year, it tracked 2,717 anti-Semitic incidents throughout the United States, making it the highest number on record since ADL began tracking anti-Semitic incidents in 1979.
We're definitely on track to be probably around what 2021 was, possibly even higher. It has certainly not gone down.
Would you say there's been a normalization of anti-Semitism?
Not only normalizing it, but also the fact that increasingly it's become socially acceptable.
Dr. Peter Hotez requires security when speaking in public. As a vaccine developer, he's been inundated with anti-Semitic threats based on COVID conspiracy theories that try to blame the Jewish community for the pandemic.
People need to understand why anti-Semitic rhetoric and anti-Semitic targeting is so dangerous, and its legacy, of course, with the most dramatic version being what happened in the Holocaust.
In its latest domestic threat assessment, the Department of Homeland Security says the Jewish community is among several groups at risk of being targeted. The U.S. will remain in a heightened threat environment until at least next May. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
You are looking at a live shot of the Toronto skyline, mainly clear with some cloudy periods overnight. Currently, it is -1 in the city, but feeling more like -6. Let's go back to Colette now with a look at your long-range forecast. And Colette, it's really been a week of ups and downs.
Well, it's kind of hard to keep up with, what's going on with our conditions when we have so many ups and downs. Obviously, yesterday with mild and then the cold air, and we've stayed into that colder air mass today, and now we're going to change it up again. So let me walk you through everything that's going around, because the temperature's going on the mild side again. And that is for tomorrow and into Saturday as well. But there's also rain in store for Saturday, and any moisture lingering late Saturday into Sunday would turn into some wet snowfall, because there you go, Sunday the temperatures go down again and we get into that colder air. So a real split on those temperatures for the weekend, for the 2 weekend days there. The cloud cover, we have quite a bit of it for tomorrow. Some sunny breaks, they'll be welcome when we have them, or when at times when it's a little bit more of a mix, just enjoy that. Some light showers are possible tomorrow evening, but the main system or main amount of rain and shower activity is going to come in more through the overnight hours and into Saturday morning. But if you look at the timing here, by Saturday afternoon, it should have cleared away. The winds will be strong again from more of a southerly flow. That's helping the temperature to push up to double digits. But then the door will close again on us, and we'll see those falling temperatures later in the day on Saturday and Saturday night. And yes, some lake effect squalls setting up, but not likely as significant as what we just had with this last system, all these winds we've been dealing with. It's really been a powerful system. This next one won't linger as long with the strong winds. Overnight tonight, I do just want you to know Windsor, it may be -2, but it's going to feel like -7, a little cooler for you even in London there. Even if the winds back off, it doesn't take much to give us that wind chill. The wind chills will be -6 to -9 around the Golden Horseshoe, even though the lows are -2 to around -5. Again, that direction of the wind, so important and crucial in terms of what will be happening with the temperature. So 7 tomorrow, very mild Friday night into Saturday, comes with wet weather, 10, and then the temperature is going to dip down, and we go not only seasonal, but a little bit below seasonal, Kelda.
All right, thanks so much, Colette. The reigning Canadian Elite Basketball League champions, the Honey Badgers, have a new home.
Really excited to bring international basketball to Brampton. This is a city that is diverse. This is a city that is international, and we want to be able to broadcast that Brampton name on that court all over the world.
The Honey Badgers are leaving Hamilton for Brampton after being forced out of their arena due to renovations. Now, they will play their home games at the CAA Centre. The CEBL showcases Canada's rapid growth in basketball. This is one of the several recent changes, including a new expansion team in Winnipeg. And finally tonight, Canada's first Men's World Cup in 36 years is now over. Our time in Qatar came to an end after 3 straight losses. Now, the next time Canada's men play in the World Cup will be one of the 3 countries hosting. As Greg Ross tells us, fans still proud of the team's showing this time around and looking forward to 2026.
The viewing parties this morning were a little smaller than we've seen for Canada's previous matches, and the cheers a little bit more subdued. But the pride for this Canadian team still coming through in a big way.
They did us proud, they did well. It was a good showing all around.
I know today's a loss, but in the grand scheme of things, this feels like a really historic moment for Canada. We've made it much farther than we have in quite a while.
I would have wanted a better result, and we all would have wanted a better result, but that wasn't in the cards in this go around.
Students at Meadowvale Public School in Scarborough had a viewing party of their own today. While the Canadian team may not have won, just by competing, they are helping to shape the dreams and aspirations of many kids across this country.
It's a big deal just for Canada to be here because they haven't been here in many, many years.
Is that a Kubi? He does really well down that left side, and that's an own goal!
It actually made me want to play more and actually watch more soccer because before the World Cup, I never really had the want to watch soccer because Canada never got in.
With today's 2-1 loss to Morocco, Canada finishes the tournament with no wins and 3 losses. But they did score the first 2 goals for Canada in World Cup play, and some say it's just a sign of things to come.
I think they're a world-class team, definitely. They got incredible team speed. Their skill level is much greater than it's ever been in Canada before. So I think they're almost there.
The excitement surrounding the Canadian team this year may only be the tip of the iceberg. In 4 years, Canada will be one of the host countries of the World Cup, with a number of games being played right here in Toronto.
This was a stepping stone for 4 years from now.
I think this is a really good experience for these guys. I think now they understand exactly what they need to improve and what things they need to change up in order to be ready to make a bigger impact.
The Canadian team will have a chance to win their first ever World Cup match on home soil in 2026. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.